I've been a trucker for nearly 15 years, hauling everything from produce to electronics across the Midwest. This story goes back to 2018, when I was driving an overnight route through the flat, endless plains of Nebraska, headed to a warehouse in Kansas with a load of car parts. It was late, maybe 3 a.m., and the darkness was suffocating. My rig's headlights were on their last legs, dim and flickering, but I'd been too stubborn to replace them. Usually it wasn't a big deal, but out here, with no streetlights or other cars, it felt like I was driving blind. I was squinting to make out the road, debating whether to pull over and catch a few hours of sleep until dawn. Money was tight though, and I needed to make this delivery on time to cover some overdue bills. So I pushed on, telling myself the straight highway would be forgiving. About an hour before sunrise, I spotted something in the distance, a pair of blinking hazard lights. As I got close, I saw a beat-up pickup truck parked smack in the middle of the road, right on the center line. The driver's side door was wide open, swinging slightly in the breeze. I slammed on the brakes, my rig screeching to a stop just inches from the truck's bumper. I'm not easily spooked. Years of dealing with sketchy truck stops and barroom brawls have given me a thick skin, but this setup felt off. The pickup was a rusty silver Dodge, maybe a decade old, and it looked abandoned. I figured someone might need help, so I backed my rig onto the shoulder, grabbed my flashlight, and stepped out. The air was warm and still. The only sound was the faint click of the pickup's hazards echoing across the plains. I approached cautiously, calling out, "Anyone there?" No answer. I circled the truck, shining my light inside. It was empty. No driver, no passengers, not even a bag or a water bottle. The back seat was clear, too. I checked under the truck, half expecting someone to be hiding. Still nothing. The keys were still in the ignition, though the engine was off. My curiosity was now mixed with unease. I glanced around, but the darkness swallowed everything beyond my flashlight's beam. Against my better judgment, I decided to check the truck's bed. Maybe there was a clue about what was going on. I lowered the tailgate and found 3 heavy-duty canvas bags, tied shut with thick cords. A crowbar lay nearby, and the bed had a faint, metallic smell. I hesitated, then reached for one of the bags. Before I could touch it, a deafening crack split the air. A gunshot, close enough to make my ears ring. I ducked, smacking my head on the tailgate, and scrambled back. As I ran to my rig, I heard a gravelly voice shout, "Hey, stop!" The voice was coming from the field to my left, and it was getting closer. I didn't look back, just dove into my cab and fumbled with the keys. As the engine roared to life, I caught a glimpse of a figure in my side mirror. A stocky guy with a shaved head, wearing a flannel shirt and work boots. He was holding a shotgun in one hand and a flashlight in the other. His face wasn't angry, but fierce, almost desperate, as he waved at me to stop. I wasn't sticking around. I threw the rig into gear and floored it, cursing as the engine sputtered before catching. The guy sprinted toward the pickup, and I saw him climb in as I pulled away. His headlights flared up in my rearview mirror, and he started tailing me. My heart was pounding as I pushed the rig faster than was safe, the dim headlights barely lighting the road. I grabbed my phone and called 911, stammering out what had happened. The pickup stayed on my tail, honking wildly, like he was trying to force me to stop. After what felt like an eternity, maybe 15 minutes, I saw flashing police lights ahead. The pickup suddenly veered left, speeding off into a dirt road that led into the fields. I pulled over, shaking, and spilled the whole story to the cop. He took my statement but seemed more interested in getting me back on the road than chasing the guy down. "We'll send a unit to check it out," he said, but I could tell he wasn't hopeful. They never called me back. I've told this story to my trucking buddies, and they've got theories. Some say the guy was probably hiding something illegal in those bags, drugs, maybe worse. Others think he was just a local pulling a prank. I don't buy the prank angle. Those bags, that gunshot, the way he chased me, it felt too real. I like to think it was something innocent, like he was hiding equipment or tools, but deep down, I know better. I've upgraded my headlights since then, and I avoid night runs through Nebraska when I can. I'm a younger guy in the trucking world, only been at it for about 2 years. I dropped out of college after some personal drama and found this job to keep me moving. You see a lot of videos on TikTok, truckers sharing their routes, giving advice, but nothing prepares you for the isolation. The long hours alone can dig up thoughts you'd rather keep buried. This story is from my first few months on the job, back in 2021, when I was hauling a load of textiles from Virginia to Illinois, a 14-hour drive. I just finished a 10-hour run the day before, so I was already running on fumes. To make my deadline, I decided to drive through the night, aiming to hit Springfield by 4 a.m. The roads were clear, and I was making good time until I realized I'd run out of energy drinks. I'd meant to restock at my last stop but spaced it. My eyes were heavy, and I knew I couldn't keep going without a boost. I hated stopping mid-run, it always made me feel sluggish, but I had no choice. My GPS showed a diner up ahead, somewhere in rural West Virginia. I pulled into the lot, expecting a typical 24-hour joint with greasy food and stale coffee. Instead, the place looked half dead. The neon sign was flickering, and the parking lot was empty except for a single motorcycle. The windows were dark, but the open sign was lit, so I figured I'd try my luck. I parked my rig and walked to the entrance. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit dining area. The booths were empty, the counter deserted, and the air smelled faintly of burnt coffee. I called out, "Hello? Anyone working?" No response. I noticed a faint humming sound, like an appliance running, coming from the back. I grabbed a warm energy drink from a cooler by the counter and left a few bucks, figuring I'd be in and out. But that humming sound nagged at me. It wasn't loud, but it felt out of place. Curiosity got the better of me, and I followed it to a door marked storage. I pushed it open and found a small room with a single vending machine. The humming was coming from inside it, but when I looked closer, the machine was empty. No snacks, no drinks, just bare shelves. It was like someone had gutted it but left it plugged in. As I turned to leave, I heard a thud from the dining area, like a chair scraping the floor. I froze. I called out again, "Hey, who's there?" Silence. I crept back to the main room, my flashlight sweeping the shadows. Nothing. The place was still empty, but now the front door was slightly ajar. I was sure I'd closed it behind me. My gut told me to get out, so I bolted for my truck, clutching the energy drink. As I climbed into the cab, I glanced back at the diner. A shadow moved in one of the windows. A tall figure, just standing there, watching me. I started the engine and peeled out, my tires kicking up gravel. As I merged onto the highway, I noticed my trailer's curtain fluttering in the rearview mirror. Even though the windows were up, my stomach dropped. I hadn't checked the trailer before leaving the last stop. For the next 20 minutes, I kept one eye on the mirror, convinced someone was back there. The curtain moved again, like someone was brushing against it. I was sweating bullets, imagining all sorts of worst-case scenarios. I punched in the nearest police station on my GPS and drove straight there, my hands shaking on the wheel. When I arrived, I parked under a streetlight and told the cops everything. They searched the trailer and found two guys hiding among the cargo, scruffy, wearing tattered clothes, one clutching a pocket knife. They wouldn't say a word, just glared at me as they were cuffed. The cops figured they were hitchhikers or thieves looking for an easy score. I don't know how they got in or what they wanted, but the thought of them riding back there, inches from me, still gives me chills. I check my trailer religiously now, and I avoid late-night diner stops unless the place is packed. My name's Tom, and I've been driving trucks for various companies for over 12 years. It's a grind, but I pride myself on outworking the younger guys. Efficiency is everything. We're paid by the load, not the hour, so I often push myself to the limit, running on minimal sleep. This story happened in 2019, during a run from Iowa to Minnesota hauling farm equipment. Iowa's flat terrain makes for easy driving, but it also means you're tempted to skip rest breaks to make better time. It was a cold March morning, and I'd started my route just after noon, planning to reach my destination by early the next day. I was determined to do it in one shot, no stops. By midnight, I was fighting exhaustion. My buddy Carl had given me a tip years ago: caffeine pills. They're like a shot of adrenaline, but he warned me not to overdo it. I popped one, and it hit me like a jolt, keeping me wired for a while. But by 2 a.m., the effect was fading, and my eyes were closing despite my best efforts. I was on a lonely stretch of highway, flanked by dense woods on both sides. I knew I had to pull over soon or risk drifting off the road. My headlights caught something odd. A single shoe, a kid's sneaker, lying in the middle of the lane. I slowed down, thinking I might be seeing things. I rubbed my eyes and blinked hard, but it was real. A few hundred yards later, I saw another shoe, then a small backpack, and finally a pile of children's clothes, jackets, shirts, even a stuffed animal, scattered across the road. My heart sank. This wasn't random litter. It felt deliberate. I stopped the truck, my mind racing with thoughts of missing kids or something worse. I gripped the steering wheel, torn between driving on and checking it out. My dad was a cop, and his voice echoed in my head: "Don't ignore someone in trouble." I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out, the cold air snapping me awake. I approached the pile of clothes, scanning the woods for any sign of movement. It was dead quiet, except for the rustle of leaves in the breeze. As I crouched to inspect the clothes, I heard a faint whimper, like a child crying, coming from the woods to my right. I called out, "Hey, you okay out there?" No answer, just another whimper, softer this time. My instincts screamed at me to get back to the truck, but I couldn't shake the thought of a kid in danger. I took a few steps toward the sound, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. Then I saw them, 3 figures crouched behind a tree, one holding a portable speaker. The whimpering stopped, and I realized it was a recording. I backed away, my heart pounding. As I turned to run, something crashed through the underbrush on the opposite side of the road. I sprinted to my truck, slamming the door just as a rock hit the side of my trailer with a loud thunk. I started the engine and floored it, catching a glimpse of a figure in my mirror. A lanky guy in a hooded sweatshirt, throwing another rock that cracked my rear window. He shouted something, but I couldn't make it out over the roar of my engine. I drove for an hour, checking my mirrors every few seconds, expecting headlights to appear. None did. When I reached the next town, I pulled into a gas station and called the police. They took my statement and said they'd patrol the area, but I got the sense they thought I was overreacting. They never followed it up. I finished my delivery and crashed for nearly 12 hours afterward, my mind replaying the whole thing. I've gone over it 100 times since. Maybe it was a prank, some locals messing with truckers. But the speaker, the clothes, the way they tried to lure me into the woods, it felt like a trap. I don't know what they wanted, and I'm not sure I want to. I carry a tire iron in my cab now, and I never stop for anything on the road that doesn't feel right.